him warmly. Come on, Brad Hampton.
Thanks, Robin. Well, hey, I will give some advice on that. How many of you know that if you're going to have a fight, it's going to be Sunday morning with your spouse? Okay? So we're really big. All of us should be to empowering and developing people. And so it's funny you say that, Robin. I have trained up a guy that comes to my house every Sunday morning, picks me up personally so I can get up before my family, get ready, takes me to church. He's with me all day long. And then my wife has someone that comes, and if you do multi-service, and stays with the kids so she can get to church, and then brings the kids later. And guess what? No more fights on Sunday mornings. It's unbelievable. But Robin, man, I have 2 boys. That's a little different. With boys, you just throw a hat on them, and you're good. Just put a hat on. Let's go. Man, what an honor. Pastor Greg, you weren't here yesterday, but I just want to honor you. And Beth, 40 years. Mark talked a little bit about finding people that you can honor. And we won't know until we've been doing this 40 years the price you guys have paid. You know, I was talking to you, Beth, before. People just don't know until they're in your shoes. You were talking about how you've had people come say, so what do you do all day, right? We've all had that person. What do you do with your week? Like, oh, my Lord. Right then, I put my hand and I start prophesying for them to be a church planner one day. Like, please, Lord, call them to be a church planner so they'll never ask that question again. But the price you guys have paid, and how rare is it to find someone that's given 40 years to one church? I mean, that's unbelievable. Yeah, that's worth a pretty big hand. And so thank you for just your voice in my life. And I know we have somewhat of a new relationship, but I'm grateful for it. So thank you. And thank you for just giving me the opportunity to be here. And Robin, thank you. You're always, I don't know, man. You had me picked up in like a van that's a distillery van. I mean, I've never been to a conference where that's the kind of thing that picked me up, but you're just the most unique but creative, awesome guy. You're a lot of words, man. You're just awesome. So I'll save all those, but no, I do really appreciate you, Robin. So I want to talk to you. You know, I watch someone like Mark Batterson, and you're like, man, God has really given him a gift. And I was talking to you, Beth, earlier, but I feel like God has given me a gift that I'm very unique. I'm very different from the typical church planner because my background was not in ministry, really. My background was in a software startup that blew up, and I was the first one to say, hey, I could help with marketing, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And when you do that for 11 years and a company continues to grow and grow and grow, you get a lot of opportunity. And isn't it amazing when you look back on your life how God takes you on this journey? And when we started to feel this call to plant a church, I'm like, you know what? I think some of the strategies that I learned in the secular world might work in the church world. And it's so crazy. For years of my life, I grew up in a very legalistic church. The idea that business practices could work in a church was just like, no way. No, we don't do that. That's the world. And it's really unfortunate. And so I've kind of gone against that. And so today, I just want to give you some real practical things, and I want to change your mind on what marketing looks like within the church, okay? Anytime I do a session at ARC or I do an online training, we worked with ARC to do a training on digital church and marketing during the pandemic. This isn't to brag. This is to tell you what the need is there. The week prior, I think it was either Beth Moore or Christine Kane had done a session. We had double the number of people log in for a church marketing session than either Christine Kane or Beth Moore. I can't remember who it was. You know, to me, that doesn't say, wow, look at Brad. It says, wow, there's a real need within the church. People don't know what they're doing here. And so I feel like God's given me the gift. It's not to write a bunch of books. It's not maybe to have a mega church. It's to help the church understand how to reach people using these amazing tools that God has given us. And we live in a day and an age where we have the ability to reach more people than ever before. But if we don't know how to use these tools, then we're going to do it wrong. And we may hurt ourselves in the process. So let's talk about that a little bit. And I know some of you guys, Andrew and Ryan and Paul. You've probably heard maybe some of this before. So it's going to be a culmination of different things. So I apologize if some of this is redundant to you. But let me help you understand something. We all want to jump in and try to get on social media or market something. I want to help you, especially those in the room that are maybe early in the church planting phase or maybe planting soon. You have to be careful. Don't put a ton of money into something that's not ready to be marketed, right? I always think back to this story of, I believe it was Pepsi in the late 90s came out with a drink called Josta. Does anybody remember this drink? You probably remember it because it was terrible. It tastes like Robitussin. It was the absolute, they spent millions upon millions of dollars to market a product. It's so funny, back then, they actually could come to your schools and sell and give sodas away. You know, that would never happen in this day and age, but in the late 90s, I remember they rolled up in this big van that had Josta all over. They were giving like soccer jerseys away that say Josta and giving us tons of these drinks, and we're all like, this is so cool, it looks cool, we're teenagers, this is awesome. And then we take a drink and we're like, this is awful. And it wasn't long after that it was gone, right? Because what did they do? They had a product, and it was the first energy drink, okay? It was the first energy drink. It wasn't ready. And they spent all that money, and a lot of times in the church, we start to do the same thing. We decide this is the greatest thing ever, let's spend all this money on it. And here's what you do, right? If somebody shows up to your church and they have a great experience, they're gonna tell a few people. If they come to your church and have an awful experience, they're going to tell a lot of people. That's how we work. Look on social media. Look at the comments under any news article. The most comments are people that hate it, are mad, are against it. The fewest comments are the people like, I agree, I like this, I like, right? It's always in our nature to tell the world the things that we disagree with and we don't like. So we have to be careful not to go all in. You know, through ARC, one of the things they really push for a church planner is to not do a bunch of things before your launch day. They don't want you to try to start getting word out and not be ready. Like they used to say, don't do a worship night. Don't do all the things that we as pastors want to do and ministers want to do, because you're really focusing on that launch day to make it a great day, because you're going to have, you know, our church on average has around, I think, 250, 300 people show up on launch day. So don't start marketing something till it's ready. Put all of your effort into that launch day. And whatever you're doing, like for us, we've done a couple of like women's conferences, and our first one, it was our first conference. So we didn't spend tons of money marketing it. It's our first time to do it. So we want to make sure it's even good. We want to make sure the people in our church that are going to love us no matter what have a great experience before we try to bring in the community, and they'll be like, oh, we finally went to SoCo and it just wasn't great. The name of our church is SoCo, by the way. So if your kids' ministry isn't strong, we have to be careful not to try to market that we're all-in kids ministry. By the way, have a great kids ministry, all right? If the worship is really quiet and yet people are still wearing earplugs, then there's probably an issue. That's what we need to put our focus on. We need to hire a worship pastor before we try to spend $1,000 a month in our social media ads. Do you get what I'm saying here? I know the desire is to see that Facebook button that says boost this post and to just click it and put $1,000 in and believe that everybody's going to show up. But the reality is we need to be aware and evaluate the product, for lack of a better term, before we decide to put it out there to the public. Does that make sense? And can I just speak as a pastor? We have a lot of blind spots, right? We have a lot of times, it's kind of like when I was in art. My senior year, I had to take an art class. And the teacher goes, well, all you got to do is show up and do the project and you get an A+ in this. I'm like, great. The end of the year, she gave me a B. I'm like, how did you give me a B? She's like, well, I'm just going to be honest. Your art is terrible. You are a terrible artist. I'm like, this stuff is great. You hung it on the wall. She's like, I felt sorry for you. You know, it's like when we create it, we think it's great, right? But we have to make sure and be aware that we have some blind spots in our lives. So don't pay for something that's going to do the opposite of what your marketing plan was for. You get one first impression in the building. You get one. You get one. How many of you know if today you moved to Denver and you were just out of ministry You're going to go try some churches. How many of you had someone come to your church and they say, I've been trying church? No one says, well, I went to that church 6 times because I wanted to give them a fair opportunity. No, they go one time. And if it's an off day, that's the way they view that church from then on, right? Have you ever had an off day? And you've had guests those days. Can I tell you today that guest is still evaluating and basing their experience off that one day that you had an off day? For me, I have a lot of off days. But anyway. And I want to just say this. Be very careful if you're paying someone to help you get guests in your building. I can't tell you how frustrated I get when I get phone calls like, man, we really need some help. We've been paying so-and-so or this company or this church marketing team, and they're charging, a guy called me, it was probably right before COVID. They had $12,000 a month coming in. He was giving $2,000 of that to a guy to help him do ads. $2,000 of his $12,000. And I'm like, bro, how's your worship? It's not great. I look online. It wasn't great. Get a worship guy, man. Make it a great experience for the people in your church before you start trying to bring more people in. And so be very careful about this temptation to hire someone to help you when really they don't know you. They don't know your church. They don't know your demographic. They just have this one process that's going to get people in the seats, yeah, but is it the right people? Is it the person that's going to stick around? I love they have all of these statistics. And we helped this church get 50 people in 3 months. And I'm like, tell me the statistic of how many of those people are still there. How many of those 50 people were their family members that happened to just show up that day? Okay. And I apologize if I'm all over the place, but I just want to give you some really good takeaways that I hope will help you. Like, isn't it great to sometimes leave a conference and be like, I know some steps that we can take. And so I want to help you have some steps that you can take. So this is something I tell every church that I'm ever a part of when it comes to marketing. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. And let me tell you, if you are a pastor in the room, you have a tendency to do this. You have a tendency to get on your Facebook and say things like this. Y'all got to show up Sunday. It's going to be the greatest day ever. You have a tendency to do that. Can I tell you the truth? It's going to be the most average Sunday ever. It's going to just be pretty average. And yet we just think, man, it's going to be, I've been praying. I just believe God is going to do something. It's going to change everyone's life. The reality, it may change a few people's lives, but a lot of people are going to come and they're going, it was a good Sunday. And they're going to head home, right? We have to be careful not to use this language that overpromises. You got to show up this Sunday. Our worship is the best. Or create an ad talking about how awesome. If you're saying it's awesome, you are raising the bar, and people are coming in. Man, let's go check that church out, man. They're really promoting how great their worship. Let's go. And if you have a great worship team, but there's lots of squilling and the speakers are cutting out and the mics are going up, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't overpromise. Really evaluate your product. And I know it's yours, and I know you love it, but really focus on the thing that you're good at. If you're awesome at community, talk about that, right? If you're friendly, by the way, being friendly in a church is free, and I am blown away how unfriendly churches are. I can't believe it. It is just the most bizarre thing to me. My wife and I, before we planted, I don't know if any of you did this, we decided to try other churches because it's a season we could do that. So we had about 6 months where we just went to churches, not just in our city, all around, big churches. And we tried this one church we went to, we were really excited to go. We got the time wrong. We were 30 minutes early. And we walk in, and all the staff and people they're having huddles and prepping, and we walk in, and everybody just kind of looks at us, and we're like, we have a kid, like clearly we're guests, and so like, well, let's just go on in. So we go on in, it's a big auditorium, we sit down, pastors and people walk by, no one ever acknowledges, hey, these people may feel awkward right now. No one ever says a word to us. At the end of the service, I said, babe, let's go just stand in the lobby and let's make it clear we don't know what we're doing. So I'm not kidding. We go stand in the middle of the lobby. My wife's an introvert, so she hates me for this. We go stand in the middle, and I just do this. For like 10 minutes, no one ever came and said a word to us. Now, here's what I learned from that moment. Man, we've got to be really intentional. Like, we thought it would just naturally be a friendly church. We've got to be intentional. We got to talk about it in our rally. We've got to make sure if we see a clique of people hanging out that are serving, like, hey guys, no. Y'all go hang out for dinner, but go right now and talk to people. And so if you're good at something like that, promote that. If you have awesome groups, promote that. If you're someone in your church, other than you and your wife, will tell you that your communication is just unbelievable, promote that, right? So for us, let me kind of show you. Well, I'll show you in a minute. Were you guys able to get those images for me? Yeah. So I want to show you something here, and I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but let me show you something really important about social media that's free. This right here is a billboard for us. This is our social media feed right now at SoCo. And I want you to notice something that's not happening. And there's a church I've been helping, and I want to show you a former screenshot. Can you show me the other one? Now, I want you to notice the difference. One of these is using their social media as a digital billboard that applies to only people in their church. Do you follow what I'm saying? This, however, is doing, go back to the first one. Go back to this, yeah. So here, we're actually doing the same thing. If you clicked on any of those images, it's going to say things like, don't forget this Sunday, we're continuing whatever series. Or, hey, if you're new, you've got to come to Discovery. We'd love to have you. But what we're doing is also allowing someone to stop the scroll and identify with what's going on. I'll talk about more of that in just a couple minutes, and then I'll wrap up. But back to over-promising and under-delivering. Can I tell you something that you need to hear? Environments matter so much. I'm going to say it again. Environments matter like crazy. Do you know why my wife and I will go out of our way to go to a Chick-fil-A? Because we know it's going to be clean. We know the bathrooms are going to be clean. We know that the food is going to be excellent. We know that the workers, I don't have to worry too much about someone just spitting in my food or dropping it on the floor. There's a level of excellence. Pastor Greg talked about how hard it is to even open a Chick-fil-A. They're so intentional about that. Environments matter so much. How many of you just stop at the first hotel? No. Are you like me? Like, you're looking at the pictures to see? Environments matter. In a church, portable or not, you can't make the excuse. You have got to be so intentional about your environments. And if you don't have someone getting fresh eyes on your environment, I mean, you're missing it. And here's why. I call this is something I love to share, the dent syndrome. We all have the dent syndrome. I bought a car years ago. I loved it. I was like 27, and it was black. It had chrome. Had people compliment it, and one day we were at a driving range, I believe, and someone hit my car with a golf ball and put a big dent in the side of it. I call insurance right away. I'm young. I don't have a lot of money. It's like $1,000 deductible or something. Like, I can't afford that right now. 3 months later, I'll never forget picking up a friend, and he's like, hey, man, what happened to your car? It's like, what are you talking about? And I come over, and I'm like, oh, man, I forgot all about that. That dent, for about a week, I saw it every day, and it drove me nuts. But 3 months later, that dent didn't even exist anymore. In your church, there are dents. There are things you do not see anymore. And if you don't get some fresh eyes on that dent, everyone else is noticing it. And that dent can be a lot of things. That dent can be a greeter who's terrible at greeting. That dent can be a dirty bathroom. That dent can be dark and dingy spaces, right? It's on and on and on. And people are coming in and they're evaluating, is this a Chick-fil-A or is this a McDonald's, right? And so make sure that you understand before you market, before you try to get people in the doors, before you launch your church, that you have some fresh eyes and that you don't have dents within your church. Is that good? Is that helpful? And man, the longer we have a church, the more we need people to put eyes on the environment. And by the way, if you don't have some young people in your church helping you with this, you're missing the mark. I shared the stats yesterday. The Gen X, the Gen Z, they're going to church less and less. And a lot of that may be because it still feels like some forced tradition. It feels out of date. You can go look at the reasons that they don't go to church. It doesn't feel like it applies to the current situation, but also those environments matter to them. How do we know that, man? Have you been to a concert? Well, no, we haven't been to a concert lately, but prior to COVID, it's unbelievable, the production value. And I'm not saying you have to be a concert, but there's a reason in my church we have LED lights and an LED screen. There's a reason that we do the things that we do, because I'm trying to reach people nobody else can reach. And if you're 50 plus and come to my church, you're likely going to come to me and say, man, I feel like the old guy here. Because we're not used to seeing so many young people in churches, but we are intentionally reaching them. Okay, can I give you a few just quick nuts and bolts that I hope will help you? One person said yes, thank you. Again, I'm Pentecostal, man. I'm used to people preaching with me. I'm used to having a jacket that I take off mid-service, you know what I mean? Y'all know what that means, right? It's about to get good when the pastor takes his jacket off. I forgot my jacket, dadgummit. Nuts and bolts. Listen, something I've been teaching for a long time, and this will help everyone in the room. The question is not what avenue of marketing to use, it's how to use them all together. People are always asking me, should I use Facebook, Instagram? Should I do a mailer? Should I do a billboard? Look, you want to create a brand recognition. And the more time someone can see your logo, the more places they can see your logo, your message, your vision, the more that's going to start to be branded in their mind to where they recognize it, right? We recognize a Nike logo. It doesn't have to say Nike. We just know what it is. We know what it's about. When we drive by a store and see it, we know instantly what's in the store, what's happening. You want to try to create a brand for your community. And you can't do it for an entire city, but you can find a region. How do I make those work together? How do I get people on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok? Maybe it's a mailer, maybe it's a digital billboard, whatever it may be. How can we use all of that together? Don't just try to find one avenue and put all your money there. Make it work together. If you're launching a church, you want to find strategies that help brand. Well, one of the greatest compliments we got when people came on our first launch day is, man, we see you guys everywhere. I'm like, yes. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. You just got to be strategic. And I can share some help on that as well. Again, the goal is to brand yourself in your community, Facebook, Instagram, mailers. They're not good on their own, though. Those things aren't great on their own, but they're great when they work together. You have to strategize, listen to this, placement, location, and dates. I am not doing any major ads in the middle of summer, especially right now, because nobody's coming to church anyway. I've missed my first 2 Sundays ever in a row, and I've actually enjoyed it because nobody's going to be there right now. So if they ain't going to be there, why should I be there, right? But come fall, we're going to put money back into it. First of the year, we're putting money into it. Strategic. I'm not putting a billboard that's 20 miles away about our church. I'm doing it in our area. I'm strategic about placement, timing. When we're doing a big series, when we're doing a big family thing, when we're doing attractional things, that's when I want to put some money into things. Here's one other thing under these kind of nuts and bolts. Your website has to be amazing. Your website has to be amazing. Just like you're comparing hotels, people are going to compare churches. And if you want them to come to you first, then you need to have a website that draws them in. Your website is not for the people in your church. Your website is for the people you hope to get in your church. So it needs, that first page does not need to be all about the big events you're doing. It needs to be about who you are. It needs to be about who the pastors are. Can I identify with them? Are there things that I can kind of see myself doing here? Does the mission line up with what we're doing? Maybe it's putting a video of a service or a welcome video of here's what you can expect on a Sunday. Creating a space that's clean, it's concise, it's not 15 clicks to figure something out. I'm going to put everything as basic as possible right there. And if you want a great idea, obviously I'm biased. We put a lot of work into post-COVID, our website. You're welcome to look it up. It's SOCO, SOCO.church, SOCO.church to give you some ideas of what I'm talking about. I did talk to a guy the other day he has a whole company on Google Ads. That's all he does for churches. And I was calling just to pick his brain, and he was looking over our site, and he said, it's amazing. You have a page right here dedicated to who is Jesus. He said, I can't tell you the last time I saw a church that even tells people who Jesus is intentional about creating a space for someone that maybe watched online. They said, yeah, I want to know about Jesus, and then go to your website, and there's nothing about Jesus. It's all about their events. It's all about their activities. It's all about the pastor, but there's nothing on there about who Jesus is. So be intentional about that, I think, as well. That was a good lesson for me. Okay, here's what I wanted to show you. Are you guys good? Everybody good? All right, let me show you something real quick that I think will help you more than anything else. All right, so we all have kind of this reach. See, my art teacher, that's a pretty great circle right there. Unbelievable. It looks like an egg. Oh, an A? That looks like an A?
No, I meant A+.
Oh, an A. Oh, yeah. There we go. So we all have this reach that we want within our communities. We want to reach our church and our community with our church. And so we have our churches. Put a little cross there. And then we have all these people in mind that we want to reach that don't have arms. And so here they are. They're in our sphere of who we want to reach. We have this church, but there's something that we need to be aware of. There are these barriers, okay? There's all these barriers that keep people from coming to your church. Let's talk about some of these. Some of these barriers are, they don't even know you exist. That's a pretty big barrier, right? They're not coming because they don't even know about you. Some of the barriers are, they don't trust you. Other barriers are they just have a lot of questions. Have a lot of questions about who you are. And we could go on, right? We could really narrow it down. They work Sunday mornings, so they can't come, right? There's all kinds of stuff that we could talk about. There are a lot of barriers, and we have to understand this is such a big, I think this will help you maybe more than anything when it comes to marketing your church. We want to reach people. We have a place to reach them, but there's a lot of barriers on why we can't reach them. Here's what you got to understand. Can you pull up our social media, the first one again real quick? Okay, so leave that up for just a second. How many of you have had a restaurant come to town that maybe isn't a chain? You've never heard of them, but you've driven by it, and you've thought, we got to try that place sometime. You ever had that happen? Man, this new, we got to try. And then like 3 years go by, and you're still driving by, and you're still saying things like, we've got to go try that place. Maybe some family comes in, and they're like, have you guys eaten there yet? Like, no, we've been meaning to, but we just haven't gone. Can I tell you why you haven't eaten there? Because you have questions. There are some barriers there. You don't know some things. First of all, you don't know, is the food good, right? I mean, come on, how many of you go to a chain in a city you don't know because you're not sure if that place is good? And you know what, Applebee's will be at least okay, right? No, you love Applebee's? Big fan? Okay, there's a Chili's. Is that better? It'll be at least okay. And since you know that it's going to be okay, that's why you go the safe way. You don't know if this restaurant, you don't know their hours. You don't know if you have kids, you don't know if it's kid friendly. You don't know how you have to dress. Like, do I need to dress? Is this a nice place? Now, listen, the answers are probably all right there on the website, but we're busy and we don't think about it. We drive by like, I need to look them up, and we just don't. Are you getting what I'm talking about here? Now, can I tell you, as much as we do that with restaurants, people 10 times more do it with church. You can drive by the nicest building in the world, but you still don't know. You can think, man, it looks modern, but you have no idea what's going on inside. Do I need to dress nice? Is it multicultural? Do they have a kids program? Do I have to keep my kids with me? Is it maybe a family church where they don't do kids ministry and I don't want my kids screaming? Do they have snakes? Do I need to bring my own snakes? Can I rent snakes? I mean, we have questions about what they are doing. And just, you've been in church a long time, so you don't relate to these people. There are a lot of barriers that they can drive by and know your church is there, but they don't know things about your church. When you market your church, every strategic thing you do to market your church should do one thing: answer questions. Man, I want to answer questions. Can I tell you something? This is answering questions. If we market, if we create an ad, or if somebody organically comes to our site, if you go to SoCo's Instagram and you scroll the feed, in about 5 seconds, your questions are answered through photos. You know if we're young or old, are we upbeat, are we dress nice, are we come as you are, do we have kids, do we value kids? Is there, is it modern worship, is it traditional worship, is it friendly, is it not friendly? Everything that you want to know. Look, this is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 photos, and maybe it's a little far away from you. But in 15 photos, I think you probably can get a lot of your questions answered right there about what the experience is going to be like. Would you agree? In the same way that you go look at that hotel and try to determine in the photos and in the reviews, is this a place for me to go? You have an opportunity every post, whether it's paid or not, everything you do, think this way: am I answering questions? Am I answering questions? Can you go to the next feed, the other picture? Or am I just feeling like I need to put some stuff out there to tell people what's happening? If I'm looking for a church, I'm not real concerned about the series. I'm not real concerned about, the ladies' event this weekend that got canceled. I just want to know, do I fit there? Like, is this a place for me or not? And this becomes a billboard for the people that are already in your church. Send them a text message. Send them a newsletter, but use your social media as a way to break down the barriers to get people in your church. Now, here's one last thing I want to share with you. So every marketing strategy should point towards conversations, right? So how can I answer a question, and how can I lead that to a conversation? When you're creating content, don't think about the people in your church. Think about the people you're trying to reach. Now, here's my last big idea. Marketing is not going to likely reach a lot of really lost people. You can go look at all kinds of statistics on this, especially men. If I'm a man and I'm far from God, and I scroll through Facebook and there's an ad with a photo of people with their hands lifted worshiping, I am unlikely going to say, you know what, that picture really moves me. It's time to give my life to Jesus. Not going to do it. So we spend a lot of money trying to reach the lost, when Jesus lived a life teaching us the way to reaching the lost is relationship equity. Relationship equity does not happen via a social media post. Lost people are not going to come running to your church because of an ad. Now, it will happen occasionally. In the middle of a pandemic or in their own personal pandemic, if they scroll through something that says, we want to make marriages, we want to see God heal marriages, there's likely going to be a few people that identify. But for a great ROI, if we're talking ROI, and if you're a pastor, you know that you want the greatest ROI, it's not going to be the people far from God. And so we need to be very careful in social media. It's unbelievable, this technology. I can narrow down my reach to age groups, to genders, to interests, to zip codes. It's unbelievable how technology allows me to go after exactly who I want to target. So when I create content to answer questions, and if I'm paying for it, can I tell you, I am never, ever, ever, maybe 1% of the time, I'm always trying to reach people that already get the language. I'm trying to reach 3 categories, okay? This is something I've taught from day one. I want to reach people that are Christians. They're new to my city and they're looking for a church. They've been in my city and they've been hurt by the church and they're not attending church anymore. Or they are in my city attending a church, but they're unplugged, they're CEO, the Christmas and Easter only Christians. They're sitting on the back row. No offense, people sitting on the back row. Shout out. I know you love me. But you need Jesus. No, I'm kidding. So here's what I say about social media, and especially when you're paying for things. Use it to reach the people that are going to help you reach the people you're called to reach. We had this idea we were going to plant a church with a bunch of lost people. Thank God that didn't happen. Can you imagine? We had a launch team of 153 people. Can you imagine if they were a bunch of lost people? I would have been spending every second of my day trying to disciple, trying to help them, trying to walk them through life's issues. And honestly, they've changed this a little bit since then. But going into our ARC training, that's kind of what they gave me the impression we were going to do. And about a month in, I realized we can't do this. We've got to go get people that understand the language. If we can build this unbelievable foundation on launch day, then we can go really reach the people we need to reach. So we built a team of people to help us reach the people that we were called to reach. Does that make sense? So that's the strategy we use for social media. I know that it's unlikely I'm going to reach a lot of lost people, but if I can get saved people plugged in, locked in, all in with the mission, they have a big reach in the community that they can individually go be the missionaries that draw people in through relationship equity. How many of you ever did the tracts? You ever went to door and handed out tracts? If you still do that, God bless you. Can I tell you that I had to do that as a teenager and I hated it because it was always like my friend's house and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, you want to like, do you want to know Jesus or no, okay. Basically, here's what we did. We knocked on doors, we handed them a tract and said, "Hey, can you throw this away for me? Thank you. God bless. Yeah, throw that away for me." And then we would go pray and say, "Lord, just send the revival. Push, pray until something happens." No one ever came. You know why? There's no relationship. And we live in a day now where nobody trusts anything. So you better have a relationship with somebody. If you want to reach lost people, you got to have a relationship with them. If you go put thousands of dollars in trying to reach people that don't get church, don't get the language, don't know Jesus, you're not going to reach many people. But if you go reach people that do know the language, that are active and ready to go hit the mission field with you, then you're going to get to reach some people. Does that make sense? So what are the barriers in your church? And who are the people that you're trying to reach through social media to bypass these barriers? If you're just doing a boost and it's like, yeah, Facebook, you just pick who we're reaching. It's a problem. You're wasting money. But if you can narrow this target down, and I'll just give you another quick thing. When it comes to Jesus, when it comes to spirituality, women are way more likely to respond to an ad than a man ever will be, even if he's a believer. And I know this because we do it. And we've watched a lot of women drag their husbands to church, and their husbands say, "This is actually a great place. I would have never come here." Like, yeah, I know. That's why we targeted your wife. And my watch is magnetic. Okay. All right. That's basically what I have. Let me just see if I have any other quick things here. The 3 types of people. Men don't respond to ads. Be creative. Let me give you one last thing. Be creative when you're creating content in a way that's not polished and perfect. It does not have to be the most amazing video. Can I tell you the best ad we have right now is me and my wife on my phone. We literally held up my phone. "Hey y'all, I'm Brad, this is my wife Jessica, and we love our community, and we just had a week where we wanted to pray for you. How can we pray for you today? If you wouldn't mind, at the bottom, there's a button you can click, and it says message. That's going to come directly to us, and we're going to just pray for whatever needs you have in your life. We want to show that we're not just a church that's for people in our four walls, but we're a church that's for everyone in our community. If we can partner with you in prayer, hit the message today. We love you. We can't wait to hear from you. We get tons of these messages. And guess what my wife and I do? We pray for people. We respond to them. And guess what it starts to do? It opens up conversations. It becomes relationship equity. People start coming to church. All because we made a selfie video asking how we can pray for people. It's simple. It didn't cost any money. It was really easy to do. And a lot of people think you have to go hire some marketing agency and make these unbelievable videos. People want someone that's real. People want somebody that they can just believe in. And so be that person. Be creative. Think through things that aren't, I saw a church one time just ask some silly questions. Like their ad was simply this: hey everyone, what's your favorite song of all time? And they got hundreds of comments. And then they got to respond things like, oh, if you love that band, we actually do a cover of that on Father's Day. Just different things to show, hey, there's some connectivity. We're not just this kind of old school church that's for us only, us four and no more, right? Anyway, okay. Can I ask if there's any questions real quick? I don't know if there is. It's fine if there's not, because I got a 12-hour drive ahead of me. So God bless me and my family. Yeah. 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 So is it okay if I share something that I'm working on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not rushing. I'm trying to get you out of here where you need to get.
Okay. So I was in Denver this week. There's a product out there that we use it on our website right now. It's called a Plan Your Visit. And it's a little widget that pops up on every page you go to. No matter where you go on our website, it's right there, Plan Your Visit. Now, the company that created that has since shut it down for any new people. And so I get people all the time that see it on our website and like, hey, how do I get signed up for that? It's closed. Well, the guy actually sold it off to another company, and they're making a proprietary part of their web builder through a company called Tithely. And I've been trying to get them to create an integration to how many of you use Planning Center online? Anybody use that? I've been trying to get them to do an integration of Planning Center, set up multiple services, cancel all this different stuff, and they never will respond to me. And so I got frustrated, and I said, all right, I'm just going to design my own. So I was in Denver with my cousin this week, and we actually, for the last about 6 months, have been developing a software we're launching on September 15th. And here's what's really important about it is we're not just providing a software for your website. We're also forcing you into an assessment and training so that we can ensure that your website is ready for this, that people will respond to it, and that you know what to do with people. It has automated follow-up through text messaging and emails. So basically, if they go to your website, they say, yeah, I want to visit. It tells you what services, what days. They say yes. And then it will text them and say, hey, thanks for signing up. Just want to remind you, you signed up for the 9 a.m. tomorrow. You text them, you can set it up a day out, 2 days out, 1 hour before. It also will send emails. And then it's really cool. It also, once they plan their visit, it'll give you a spot to pop up a video that does like a video tour. So it could be you, Pastor Greg, saying, thank you so much for planning your visit. We want to just help you see what you're going to experience tomorrow. And then you could do like a video walkthrough of your church or something, just to kind of, what are we doing? We're breaking down barriers so that they know. Because did you know that it's really awkward to go to a church for the first time? It's like did anybody ever have to switch schools and go into school that first day? That's what people feel like coming into your church. And so we're creating something for that.
We want to get that from you. You want to write that up there?
Yeah, it's planyourvisit.ai. Plan Your Visit. It's not even, the website's not even up yet. It'll be up next week, and we launch September 15th. We've been working with developers on this for many months, and it's really awesome. It really is. I'm really proud of it, and thanks for letting me share that. Yeah. Did you have another question?
One more question?
Oh,
in the mic.
We'll just trade off.
Come on down.
I think Mike wanted to know specifically, the concept of having a "I'm new here" button on your website as well. I think Mike wanted to hear some into that. And I think some people might be helped if you share a little bit more of just some of the things that you target. You mentioned women, but as far as age bracket, some of the likes, I think that might be beneficial for some people.
Yeah. So our site is designed for the new person, so that's why we don't have an "I'm new here" button. We want to take as many clicks away as possible because statistically, the more clicks, the more likely you lose the person. So homepage, we try to answer as many questions right there as we possibly can for the new person. Yeah, so here's some of the cool things you can do when you're creating an ad for social media. We typically target between 16 and 55. That's just us. Now, we sometimes don't put an age there. We primarily target, this sounds so bad, females. We target females. You know what I'm saying, though, the demographic. And we use keywords that Christians get. So Hillsong worship, elevation worship, Stephen Furtick, anything you can think of that if you type it in and Facebook's like, oh yeah, people have this on their profile. Anything like that pops up, and it'll give you suggestions. It'll start saying things like, oh, Torrin Wells or Carrie Job. And yeah, every one of them I can get that a Christian relates to. That way my ad is only getting to people that really know our language. And if you've ever created an ad that's just generic for everyone, you're probably getting a lot of really mean people commenting on it. Have you ever had that happen? It's because they don't get it, and there's trolls out there that don't have anything else to do. So it helps you with that as well. Does that kind of answer the question? Yeah. Anybody else? I don't want to take any more time if you don't have questions. So, yeah. I don't know if they want you to have this.
I'm getting in trouble.
Let's just stand like this as you're talking about.
Resources that you would point us to or direct us to, and then obviously we haven't even started the social media charge. So when would you suggest we start advertising, marketing, using our social media?
Yeah, how far out are you? You're a year out, so I would already be creating it. I would already be just getting a presence out there. Here's what I would tell you to do since you don't have a church yet. If you have some church friends that can share photos that really kind of are the vibe you're expecting to be. My friend planted a church in Waco, and all of their signage, all of their print material, everything is our church. It's just photos of our church because they align with kind of our vibe. And it was helping answer the questions, right, that they wanted to answer. So they used a bunch of our photos for their social media and things like that. So if you have church friends that can let you do that. Also, if you have a team of people, you can go downtown somewhere cool, get a photographer and start creating some cool content, get some merch. I have a merch business shout out as well. Can I shout out all the things I do? All right, so anything like that, but going ahead and starting to create some content, even though there may not be an action step yet, but if somebody does come across it, or you're creating a library of stuff so that when you are ready, it's not like, oh man, we got to come up with a bunch of posts. No, go ahead and already start creating that stuff. And we're so intentional about our posts, by the way. We use an app that allows us to put the photo up and see how it's going to look on the feed before we decide that's what we're going to post. Because that feed matters so much. I mean, look at all the Instagram people out there today making tons of money, influencers. They have beautiful feeds. That's who we're competing with. I want them to have to compete with me. So we're really intentional about every photo, about everything we do, even if it means hiring someone in your case to get someone to come help create some videos or different things. And then here's another thing. You want to make sure that there's interaction. You want to get in front of people. Instagram and Facebook need to know what you're putting out there matters to people. If no one's liking it, commenting on it, sharing it, if you're not going live, if you're not doing stories, if you're not doing all those things, you're basically telling social media that your stuff's really not that important. And if you can get people commenting though, and you'll really get active with it and get on a schedule of posting things, your stories on Facebook and Instagram, they don't have to be polished. Right? They don't have to, it can just be you. It can be Pastor Greg talking on Monday about, hey, if you missed yesterday, let me give you the quick 3 application points and break that down for you real quick. It can be anything like that. That's what stories are for. They don't have to be beautiful. But the more that you could create interaction. So when we're posting something, we don't say, hey, we can't wait to see you Sunday. Here's our set list. We'll say things like, this Sunday, these are the songs. By the way, what are some of your favorite songs? What can we do to get interaction? Because they're telling social media, keep this in front of people. Show more people what we're doing. When people go look for the search area and all those feeds that are popular, put us there in front of people in Bentonville, Arkansas to know that we're out there. And that's free. That's organic stuff. Okay, does that make sense? Good. So also have a merch business if you ever need t-shirts and things like that. We'd love to help you with that. And then finally, I got really frustrated during COVID. I have a marketing and production background, and we were trying to buy an LED screen for our church, and we were blown away how overpriced they were. So for the last year, we've been working with a manufacturer, and we have designed a product called Genesis, and we've sold an unbelievable amount of LED screens, and they're way more affordable. And I promise you, they're being made in the same warehouse, the same manufacturers that are making the big boys. It's the same product, y'all. We've just figured out how to get it all here through customs and all that good stuff, and it's a lot of work. But we've sold like 20 this month because they're great products. We're portable, so we set it up and tear it down every week. It's durable. And again, it's good stuff. SoCoProduction.com is the website. I feel really awkward sharing that, but thank you for letting me, Robin. Love you guys. If you have any questions, hit me up anytime. Brad@SoCo.church. I hope this helped you today.
Hey, Jay Harvey and he taught me this word. Ready? Say the word gold with me.